Well, it looks like you found a buyer for your home. That's awesome. Now there's a bunch of stuff that has to happen. It's all outlined in your dates and deadlines in your contract with your buyer. Well, let's go over some of the bigger ones that are likely going to affect you. But know this, there's lots of other things that affect the buyer. Hi, everybody. My name is Chris. I am with homesin719.com. I am the brokerage owner and realtor. Today, we're just going to kind of go through some of the things that you as the seller need to be concerned with and understand as you move through the dates and deadlines in your contract. Now understand, I don't know what's in your contract, so this is more of an overview. You need to definitely ask your agent specifically what you need to do, and hopefully that's me. But if not, no worries. Here's just kind of a few summaries of things that will happen to you, the seller. So first, once you go under contract, the buyer has to get earnest money to a third party, likely a title company here in Colorado, and they're going to hold the earnest money on behalf of the buyer and the seller until the contract either goes all the way through or it gets canceled out. So what is earnest money? Earnest money is a specific type of money used to seed a contract in the state of Colorado. In order for a contract to be valid, money has to change hands between the buyer and the seller when the contract is written, and that money gets held by the title company. Next, what the buyer is going to do is schedule their home inspection with a home inspector, or maybe two. Usually it's just one. When they do that, they normally get about a week's notice before they're going to be at your house, but not always. They try to get confirmation from you, the seller, that they can get in there, but just know that sometimes their inspector is available Thursday at 2 p.m. and that's it. So you might get a request to say, is that okay? Or you might just get a date and a time. And if you want to sell your house, you really want to try to make that happen for the buyer. Remember, you want to make this easier for the buyer to not back out. If you keep throwing up roadblocks, when something comes along that they no longer, maybe I just don't want it, and they're mad at you, much more likely they're just going to cancel the contract and you got to go back and start this whole thing over. So if at all possible, you definitely want to let that buyer in whenever they ask for it for this inspection. When they come in, you're not going to be home. Your kids aren't going to be home. Your animals aren't going to be home, hopefully. But if you can't get your animals out, especially dogs and cats, definitely put them into a kennel. I know maybe your cat hides and all that kind of stuff, but when your cat gets out, the one that hides, when it gets out, and I call you as your agent and say, hey, guess what, your cat got out, you're not going to be very happy with that buyer, and it's really not going to be totally their fault. So you want to make sure all the animals are caged up or out of the house, especially if they're a barking dog. You don't want them there. You do need to understand that the buyer will be present during the inspection. So you want to make the house super clean. It's probably the cleanest you've ever had it, because they're going to spend at least an hour, maybe two, in your home, i.e. their home. You want to make them very comfortable in your house. Leave out water, stuff like that. It's even a good idea. So know that they're going to come in. That third-party home inspector is going to go through and do a very thorough analysis to determine the condition and state of all sorts of stuff in your house. They're going to go under your sinks. They're going to go and run water in your bathtubs. They're going to check your hot water heater, your furnace. They're going to take your furnace apart a little bit and put it back. They're going to look at your electrical panels, all your outlets, all your ground fault protection, GFCIs they call them, lights. Refrigerator, does the ice maker work? Does the water flow? Does the light in all the appliances work? Meaning your oven, your microwave, are the filters in the microwave dirty or clean? They do a very thorough job. They're going to look on the outside of your house for drainage problems, all sorts of stuff. Anyway, once they do that, they're going to give a very thorough report to the buyer. The buyer's going to have, it's going to take about a day for the buyer to get their report. Then the buyer normally has about a day to look at it before they turn in an inspection objection report to your buyer, your seller's agent, to me hopefully, and they're going to go through that, take a look at it. I would look at that, and then I would present it to you so you can review it, and then we walk through it together, and we try to find deal breakers in there. So the buyer is technically asking you to fix these things or they're not going to buy the house. That's the intent of the form. It's not actually what happens, but it's the intent of the form. It's really a negotiation between the buyer and the seller to come to terms on what is going to be changed or adjusted prior to closing. And so everything's pretty much on the table. You can fix things, not fix things, fix other things, not fix the things they ask you, give them money in lieu of the repairs, whatever you can come up with. As long as you can get the buyer to agree to the terms, then it's great. That's no unilateral. The buyer can't make you do things, and you can't tell the buyer you're not going to do things and expect the buyer to buy the house. So if you can't come to terms after that inspection, the contract will expire. Both parties are done. You get to go your separate ways, and the buyer will get their earnest money back almost without question. So, be amenable, work through it. That's the goal. Keep everybody even keel, no emotion. Just work through the problem and find the solution. So after that, if we get through the inspection, normally what happens is the appraisal, and there's different kind of appraisals. So the appraisal and appraiser is hired by the bank, not the buyer. So the appraiser will reach out to your listing agent and get access to the property and schedule a time and date to be there. Again, you will not be at the house. Your kids and family should not be at the house, and hopefully your pets will not be in the house. And if they are, back in the kennel they go. The appraiser needs to be able to walk around free and clear and touch whatever they want to look at stuff. They're going to measure every room. They're going to look at finishes and flooring and wall conditions and windows and blinds, all sorts of stuff. They're going to look at that, and they need to do that freely and safely. So they'll be on the inside and the outside. So you want to have the house relatively clean. Not quite as crazy clean as you had it for the home inspection, but pretty clean. Like, you want them to feel good about your house, have a positive experience while they're there. You want that value to come in at whatever your contract price is. If you have your house destroyed from your kids and your pets, and the appraiser comes in, you don't know if they're going to give you the full value that the buyer saw when you had it really clean for showing. So you want to present the same house to the appraiser that you presented to the buyer, and within close proximity. The appraiser is able to look around it through a little clutter, a little dirt, and stuff like that. But you definitely don't want to have it look like a disaster area. Once the appraisal comes in, they'll present that to the bank. The bank will say, here's the contract price, here's the appraisal, they match, they don't. If the appraisal comes in and the value is higher than the offer, great. Same as the offer, great, no issues. Lower than the offer, now we got a problem. And the bank will reach out to the buyer and let the buyer know that, hey, the appraisal came in low. This term is called tidewater. And now we kind of have to renegotiate almost everything again. You are not required as the seller to sell your home for whatever the appraised value is, but there are some catches to that. So if the appraisal comes in low, the buyer is going to say, hey, seller, appraisal's low. Here's kind of my counter offer. Maybe I'm willing to come up with all the cash and we're good. Everything's great. Or nope, I can't do that. And they might request you to come down on the sales price. They can request you to do that, but you're not obligated to do that. So you could come up halfway and say, hey, buyer, you need to meet me halfway. You could be stern and just say, this is the price, come up with all the money. You could renegotiate the inspection objection items to try to, find that happy medium. I'm not going to do the price, but I'm going to do those other things maybe. So everything's kind of back on the table again for the buyer and the seller to renegotiate the terms of the purchase to get to a spot where you both agree and you can continue on with the sale. You might be thinking in the background though, well, no, if we can't come to terms, then I'm just going to cancel the contract, cancel automatically, and I'll put it back on the market, and I'm going to get another appraiser to come through on the next buyer. What you need to know with VA and FHA appraisals, those appraisals stay regardless of the buyer that comes down the road next. So I want to say it's for 90 days, could be 120 days after that appraisal is done. That is your appraisal no matter what. So if you have an FHA or VA buyer, yeah, you're in a pickle because that number is not going to change very much unless you get a conventional or cash buyer to come in next. So it's best to keep the buyer that you have, not try to find a new one, and try to work through and find that happy median for all parties. Another thing you need to know about VA and FHA appraisals is that appraiser is going to do an inspection as well. So they actually might require you, and I say require, I do mean require, you to do X, Y, and Z in order for them to fund the loan. So they might, now they usually don't nitpick things, but a few things that I've seen them get, peeling paint on the exterior house, no go, won't happen, they're going to tell you to paint it. If your railings are unsafe or your handrails and your staircase are unsafe, no go. They're going to force you to do that, right? Or you're not going to sell the house. So, with that, just know that you got to work through the process and get everything done. Once the appraisal is done, pretty much everything is fluid after that for the seller standpoint. Everything will just keep moving forward. The buyer still has a whole lots of dates and deadlines to object to and get through where they could cancel out the contract. But those are the big ones that you have to be concerned with as the seller up until closing. So hopefully you found this useful. Let me know if you didn't in the comments below. But have a good day and thanks for watching.